It is a beautiful day to make delicious currant jellies and jams, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. Welcome to the channel. My name is Jen if you're new here. In my kitchen, we do lots of simple local recipes with a focus on living on less. And I've got my ingredients out here today, about 10 cups of freshly picked currants, 4 cups of sugar, a cup of water, and a few tablespoons of lemon juice. And that is all you're going to need for the recipe. If you'd like to preserve this jam yourself, I'm going to show you my method for doing that. I've got my jars ready for the oven, my lids ready for the stove top, all the tools that I'll need to preserve for the winter, as well as a big pot of water ready to simmer for that hot water bath. Of course, you absolutely do not have to can this. You can also just put it in any sort of container when you're done making your jelly and pop it in your refrigerator. We are not using gelatin, Surto, anything that would be a thickening agent because currants are naturally extremely high in pectin. You do not need anything extra. So I love this recipe because it really is kind of good old-fashioned ingredients that are fairly natural, no additives, and so we're just getting our berries boiling here. I added about a cup of water so it didn't scorch to the bottom. But the purpose of bringing them to a boil is to try to extract as much of the juices from the berries as we can. I'm adding some lemon juice at this point to lock in that gorgeous ruby red color as well. So we're going to turn our oven off, our stovetop off, and just use a potato masher to mash up these berries as much as possible. If you have a food mill, you could always use that to extract the juice, or an apple saucer, but I'm showing you this method just so that you know that you can do this with pretty much anything, any tools you have on hand. Most people have a potato masher in their kitchen, so this is how you would do it. See, our juice is already coming out. So, question of the day for you: do currants grow where you live, or do you have to do you live somewhere where they have to be shipped in from somewhere else? They're definitely incredibly rare to find at like a grocery store or even a farmer's market because they don't keep well on the shelf for a long period of time. So I think it's something definitely worthwhile, even if you just have a small yard. They don't take up a ton of space, just to have some currant bushes in your flower bed or in your backyard garden that you can just pick yourself, because it's hard to find them in a store. And they do tend to grow in a cold weather climate. To me, it's totally worth it to grow them yourself because they grow so well here and they're so high in vitamin C and antioxidants, some higher antioxidants than blueberries, higher vitamin C than oranges. They're so good for you. They have a lot of dietary fiber, polyphenols. There are so many beneficial things about currants. And of course, they are the absolute healthiest straight off the bush. Not cooked with sugar necessarily. That's not the healthiest way to consume them. But we eat as much as we can just straight off of the bush, and then the rest is frozen, dried, or preserved into juices or jams for the winter. Okay, so let's try to get a lot of those vitamins extracted from our berries. I'm using a fine mesh sieve. You could also use cheesecloth at this point, just really anything that's going to let the juice through, but not the seeds in the skin. Now, that being said, I have made this jam so many times with the seeds in the skin, with the entire berry, and it's absolutely delicious. I was just going for something different today with a jelly. So you could do either or, and the process is pretty much the same once we get to the jam making stage, you'll see. So really, I find the best way is to use a spoon to just squeeze out all of the juices. And we're going to do one pass through. So I'm just kind of having the juice in one container, discarding my skins in another. And we're going to do this for the entire pot. If you were using a cheesecloth, it would be a bit different. You would just be kind of squeezing it to get the juices out, or letting it sit and letting the juices drip out, which can take hours. So this is just a faster way of doing it. Yum, look at that gorgeous ruby red color. We are definitely having this for Christmas Eve this year. We love to have a little bit of a treat midway through winter, just to have some jams, some juices, and I just find it a very festive look. You'll see there's some juice left still here in my bowl of skins and seeds. So I'm actually, I believe in using the entire buffalo. So I'm going to go through it another time to get as much goodness and vitamins and delicious flavor out of these as I can. And you'll see there still is quite a bit of juice in there when I squeeze it with a spoon. All right, we're finished. We're ready to make our jelly. At this point, you'll see there's lots of discard, but there's about 4 or 5 cups of juice we got from those 10 cups of berries. And I'm going to add to that 4 cups of white sugar. So this seems like a lot of sugar, but trust me, it's not. A lot of jams call for 2 to 1 sugar to fruit. So this is actually less sugar. You could always add more or keep a little less, but I find this is about the perfect amount to get a gel consistency. We do want to put a plate in the freezer at this point. I'm going to show you why in a moment, but we're going to need that for testing our jelly. And so I'm just bringing it to a kind of hard boil. We're dissolving all the sugar so that it is nice and smooth. And then once it comes to a hard boil, you want it to boil for several minutes until you notice that it is kind of starting to thicken or feel a little bit thick on your spoon. Now, you're not going to know it's thick enough because it's boiling, right? So it's still going to seem very liquidy, and we don't want to overboil. So this is where the testing comes in. You're going to take that plate that you had put in your freezer that's nice and icy cold, and you're just going to put a drop of the jelly on the plate to test it. So you'll see here when I turn the plate, after like a minute or so, it doesn't really run on the plate and it kind of wrinkles when I press it with my finger. That's how we know we've reached the sweet spot. If it's not gelling enough, boil it for a little longer, a couple more minutes, and then test it again. So this is the process if you are going to can in your jars. So these were in the oven on about 200 degrees Fahrenheit with a couple inches of hot water in each of them so that they don't crack. So I'm just taking the water out and we're going to fill these jars with jam. Now, I'm doing a hot water bath today, but I definitely have done this without a hot water bath. It's just I'm probably going to be giving these away as gifts, so I like to ensure a good seal and, good kitchen hygiene by doing a hot water bath. But if you're doing home canning and don't want to do a hot water bath, I have a video all about that I will link below. And basically, you're going to follow this exact same process and put the lids on, but you're just going to set the jars on your counter. And sometimes it takes up to 24 hours, but they usually do seal. A hot water bath just kind of speeds up that process and ensures, almost guarantees a good seal. So we're filling these jars until they're about 1/4 of an inch from the top. Always wipe them off before you put your lids on to get any kind of little bits of juice or syrup that have landed on the lids so they don't get sticky. I love this little magnet for grabbing our lids from the pot. It's so much easier than tongs. You can get these anywhere canning supplies are sold or on, online if you have a preferred place you like to shop online. And it just makes it so much easier. So we're putting these in the canner. It really only takes 5 to 10 minutes, you guys. It's not long. Very easy. You don't want it at a hard boil, just kind of like a simmer. And here we go. They're done and ready. I will tell you that within 30 seconds of getting these out, I was starting to hear pops, which is your signal that the jar has sealed. Do not check if your jar is sealed for about 24 hours, okay? Sometimes it takes some time. And the way you check is just by pressing your finger in the middle of the lid. If it is down and it stays down, that means it's sealed. If it pops, that means it's not sealed. So put it in your fridge and eat it. Just don't put it away for the winter. So we're going to enjoy some of this delicious red currant jelly outside by our bushes. If you would like access to more of my recipes, like our homemade biscuits, for example, make sure that you are subscribe to the channel, do some exploring there, hit the bell notification so that you are notified when another video comes out. And I just really appreciate it if you got value out of this video. Give it a like, share it with your friends. I'd love to hear some comments below, whether you like currants or not, if they grow in your area, or if you're somewhere that's too warm to grow them. I love that type of interaction, so let's just keep the conversation going. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for joining me today. For The Least, this is Jen.